It's the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Tune in. Tune in. Tune in. Tune in.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Black Real Estate Dialogue podcast. If you have not already, before we get into this episode, please take a moment to leave us a 5-star rating and review. It helps us out a whole lot, helps us to spread this message. If you do leave a 5-star rating and review, you will get a shout out on the show. So looking forward to hearing from you. Very excited for this episode. Here with me today, I have one half of Blackberry Debt Free, Marques Murrey. Marques, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hey, Sam, thank you for having me, man. Shyra, my wife, sends her regards. She got pulled away from work, but I'm really excited that I get to be on and talk some real estate with you.
Definitely. So the last episode we had with y'all was about almost 2 years ago, 2020, episode 43. For those who want the backstory, you want to learn more about how they started investing out of state, how they got out of debt, definitely go back to that episode. This episode will be an update episode, whole lot to catch up on. So definitely looking forward to it. So let's get right into it. So last year in 2021, you all bought 3 properties in Alabama. And I don't know if you remember this, but on the episode, you mentioned looking into Alabama. And so, as I was looking on YouTube and I'm like, no, we got to get it back on because this is amazing. So talk to us about that. I mean, I believe it's faster than you initially thought y'all would be in the real estate game. So I'll stop. I'll let you kind of talk a bit more about that.
Yeah, well, Sam, man, I gotta say, I don't do this a lot, but the last episode we did, I just loved it. So I've listened to it multiple times.
Oh, good.
You know what I mean? So I'm very familiar with that episode. I've even shared it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man, I remember we said we at that point we had heard on a podcast that Montgomery, Alabama was a place to look into. And so we hadn't even really started the process yet, but we were kind of just flirting with looking to pivot our out-of-state investing from North Carolina to Montgomery. And so fast forward March of 2021, man, we did it. We took the leap. In our first interview, I mentioned kind of how we set up our team, which is, getting your lending together and then finding a real estate agent, finding a property manager, and having access to a general contractor. And we like to buy and hold, kind of turnkey. So that we went into it with that same framework. Hit up an agent. First, we were just looking on, Zillow, Realtor, and found a home. He's like, okay, this looks like it checks all the boxes. Reached out to an agent, and she pointed us in the direction of a property manager. Few property managers, interviewed a few of them, and landed on one that we liked. And so we pulled the trigger on the house, made an offer, and boom, we were in escrow. So it kind of things started to happen quickly. So long story short, and I'm sure we'll get deep, do a deeper dive, but we bought one property in March, went back and got another in June. And then we finished out the year. We bought a third one in December. And it was amazing how we were able to see it scale itself faster than we had intended for it to.
Definitely. And so I'm interested to know, you were in North Carolina, you got the first 2 properties there, I believe Greensboro, and the next move was Montgomery. So can you talk more about why you felt it was time to move on from North Carolina? Also, what did you see in the Montgomery market that made you to think, you know what, I think this is a good place to continue growing?
Yeah. Well, so going back to North Carolina, we were in the Greensboro area, and we originally wanted to look in the Charlotte area, and Charlotte was just beginning to kind of balloon and bubble, and Greensboro looked like a good alternative. Is about an hour and 15 minutes out of Charlotte. So we said, this might be good. It was kind of like a diamond in the rough at that time. And so when we got our 2 properties there, we wanted to keep our purchase price at around $100,000. We didn't want to exceed that. We wanted to look for 3-bed, 2-bath turnkey. So at that time, we got 2. When we went back in 2021 to look again, the market had really the equity had grown in that area. You know, it's a more, there's a lot of tech surrounding, you know, Greensboro. A lot of transplants, people who can't afford Charlotte are moving to Greensboro and then working in Charlotte. So, and also Raleigh is pretty much like Charlotte 2.0, an hour and a half in the opposite direction. So we're like right in this area where we were seeing good growth, which was great for the houses that we owned, but sucked for us wanting to go back. So we kind of pretty much got priced out of the market. Simultaneously, I heard, like I said, listen to a podcast, and the gentleman was buying similar style homes for, at that time, around $50,000, 50, 60,000. So I started looking, and I was seeing homes that were of similar quality that were going for anywhere from $50,000 to $70,000, 3 beds, 2 baths, single family homes. And when I did the research on using the fair market rent, which you can find on any .org, fairmarket.org, and you breaks it down by county. A lot of Section 8 uses fair market rent to determine, you know, the different rents per room. So we use that in that area, and we were seeing some good rental prices for 3 bed, 2 bath. It's like, man, you can get something for around 50 to 70,000, and you can rent it out for anywhere from 800 to 950. So I was like, you know, that's a pretty good ROI. And so that, you know, made us say, hey, we really need to get serious about this and look into this. So we just kind of took the leap of faith the same way we did in Greensboro in North Carolina, and it ended up working out for us. The first one worked so well that it was just seamless. You know, we went to the second one and then to the third one, and we've been happy with it, and we think that that's kind of going to be where we land for the foreseeable future, for sure.
Definitely. And one thing I like is that you two were not afraid to adjust and to go into another area that you didn't know and saw the writing on the wall, and weren't trying to force your way into staying in the market where, you know, things just became a higher price than you were willing to pay, and you were willing to go somewhere else. And I think that can be translated in so many ways within real estate, but I think it's important for people to understand, like, hey, the market you started in, especially these days, the market you started in is very possible that you may not get the deals you want at the price you want. We got 50 states.
Yeah.
You can go somewhere else.
Yeah. It's important to not be married to any one location, any one property. I mean, that's like the 101 of investing in anything. It's like, it's all about the numbers. It's not about nothing else. It's not about, I really love it here, or this house, I'm so in love with these types of homes, or whatever it is. You know, it's about, where did the numbers make sense? And so for us, that's really how we were able to determine, man, we need to pivot and we need to move here. So yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. So how did you mentioned building the team? How did you do your market research in Montgomery? Was it virtual? Did you kind of do your research and connect with people virtually? Did you want to get out on the ground and look at things in person? Like, what was that process like for you two?
Wow, great questions, Sam. We pretty much did everything virtual, man. We like to joke about, it's like, we did it virtual in 2018 as well, and like we were kind of like 2 years ahead of the whole virtual whole virtual thing. But yeah, man, I mean, just literally with the internet, you know, like I said, we first started by, let's look on Realtors, or let's look on Zillow, see if there's something we like. And it got so, I mean, it got so basic for us, Sam, that we call the real estate number next to the house. Let's start there. You know, every house will have a real estate agent attached to it. Hey, let's call that and see what happens. So we did that. It connected us to a young lady. We started a conversation. I was like, man, I really like this. I really like this lady, this real estate agent. And so we just stayed with her, you know, and then in conversation with your agent. With your agent is a great way to start. They know about the area. You can pick their brain on, you know, what's going on in the area. You know, how's the job market in the area? You know, how's the historical weather condition? All those things that you want to consider when you're going to be buying a house somewhere. You could just ask that agent, and then, you know, ask your agent, hey, do you know any good property managers? Do you manage properties? I mean, oh yeah, I know someone. You know, a lot of times you're like a couple phone calls away from someone having exactly what you're looking for. So that's literally how we did it. We used the phone, we used the internet, and man, it's just to certain people, I could see how that's like scary, but for us, we had already done it. We had already kind of used that framework, so it was really easy for us to do it again in Montgomery, and it's worked out for us.
Definitely. And here's just the reality, right? We both live in California. Y'all are in Sacramento area. I'm in LA. It's expensive, right? Now we're not talking about FHA and those opportunities and being able to get into a property that way. We're talking about buying as an investor.
Right.
$500,000. I ain't got 20%. I'm pretty sure you don't want to part 20% on that. So, I encourage everyone who is in an expensive market, whether it's Miami, New York, whatever, consider investing out of state. These two have done it from California to the East Coast to the South. It's possible. And they pick up the phone, talk to some people, do your market research, and see if there's a good opportunity. Right. And it's probably a better option or an option to look into instead of just looking at where you're at. It's too expensive, but there's other options out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's really all about relationships too, Sam's. Like once you build those relationships with people, man, it's the possibilities are endless. So after the first one, we did the front end work all virtual, but when we went to we signed remote. So we had a notary come to our home and we signed remote and wired the money remote and everything. But we like to kind of do like a mini trip just to go see the house maybe, and then hand the keys to the property manager, meet them. And so we did that. And then you get to meet your agent face to face, after those phone conversations, you get to meet the property manager, and then you just begin to build a relationship with them. And so the next transactions only go smoother. The next two homes, Sam, I don't even think I talked to my agent on the phone. We literally would text message each other. I like this house. Okay. We want to offer X, all right, I'm sending it to the listing agent now. They accept it. I mean, we didn't even talk on the phone. It just became so seamless that it's just like, it's really easier than a lot of people think.
Definitely. So when you're looking at properties or in this particular market, what were you looking for? Were there certain prices you were looking for, certain like rents and cash flow you wanted? Like, how did you figure out? I know, of course, the principles and the basics are the same, but it's a different market. So how did you settle on, what would work for you two?
Man, great stuff. So for this market, this is not a high equity area. So the prices of the homes don't really raise drastically in Montgomery, but it seemed like a very good cash flow situation. So we had to take that in consideration. And really for what we're trying to do, which is retire early, the cash flow thing was great for us. So we said, you know what, this will be a good area to really facilitate that. We may not get the huge equity like we got in Greensboro, but that's okay because the cash flow is there, and that means we can rinse and repeat and do it, stay in this market potentially longer than we could before we were priced out of Greensboro. So that was one thing we definitely took into consideration. And then, you have to assess your risk tolerance. My wife, sometimes I listen to a lot of these, single men who are investors, and I'm just like, man, that must be cool to just kind of do more risky things, because I'm a more risky guy. But with my wife, she has a level of security that she needs, right? So they had to be turnkey. She doesn't like decks and a lot of stairs for some reasons. That makes her feel a little on edge. What if someone slips? So those are things that we had to consider when we were looking. We wanted homes that were really turnkey, didn't need a lot of work. So those were all things that we were going into it looking for. And as far as return, I was excited because the spreads here were a little bit more than Greensboro. Greensboro, we're getting, right around the 1% rural return. Here it's a little higher, 1.3, 1.4. So we were happy about that. And we were willing to living to buy in an area that didn't, the home prices doesn't go as quickly in order to get that higher cash flow. So that was big for us.
Definitely. And it's something you mentioned a couple of times, turnkey. And, there are different approaches in real estate, right? Some people, plenty of people love, like, I want a full gut job. I want to do a full rehab. Even if I'm from out of state, I don't care. I want to take it on, and that's my thing. And it's sexy, right? But another approach is just buying something that needs very little or nothing that you can put a tenant in and start collecting rent. So can you talk more about that approach? And I know, of course, like the risk tolerance and so forth is part of it, but can you explain a bit more about the benefits of just buying something that's ready, more or less ready to go?
Oh man, this is great stuff. So I love watching people do flips, right? I love, the HGTV stuff and just, seeing the process, but it's like, I know that probably wouldn't be for me, definitely wouldn't be for my wife. So the turnkey thing just really puts us at ease that we can go there. First of all, we're buying remote. So that's you're already, kind of stepping out there doing that. Then you go, a lot of times you're there for maybe 3-4 days, you take a look at the property, you get the keys and you pass the keys over to the property manager and you go back 2,000 miles away. It's a lot more peace of mind for us knowing that, man, all they really have to do is do a deep cleaning or, maybe do some paint and, man, they'll have a tenant in there within, 2-3 weeks. There's something very, comforting about that. Like, and then once you get that tenant in, cause we like to get a tenant in before we have to make the first mortgage payment. I'm not gonna lie. I don't want to make any payments myself. So when you get that call, like, yep, we got a tenant, they'll be starting, first of next month. It's just like, man, let's do this. That was too easy. Let's do this again. There's something about that. Now you have to consider, you might not get as much return as you would if you got something that needed a whole bunch of work and you could get it for dirt cheap. But at the same time, we're not putting that sweat equity in it either. And so for us, it makes it easier for us to turn and do the next when it really causes minimal heartache, so it's kind of big for us.
Definitely. And property managers, people have different opinions, people have different experiences. What has worked for you two or what, better question, how's your experience been with property managers, and what are some suggestions you have for how somebody can do their best to choose a good property manager?
Now this is a big one because, man, Sam, so in North Carolina, our property manager there, they spoiled us rotten, man. The sweetest people you will ever meet. They go above and beyond. They're just, you couldn't ask for a better property manager. And I've heard a lot of investors, listening to podcasts and listening to other investors talk about the importance of a good property manager. Man, you can't really even put into words that if you're out of state, how important a good property manager is. And so we've had some struggles, with the current manager. But they get tenants in, they address the problems. And you want someone, when you're looking for a property manager, you want someone who has a good attention to detail, who is going to meet the tenant's needs quickly, who will respond to your requests quickly, your phone calls quickly. And so those are just things you want to look for. And you want to give, I do want to say this, you want to give them grace. You are hiring them, so you can fire and move on, but you want to give them grace because it's a hard job, and when you look at what they're getting for what they do, I mean, they do a lot of work for, in our case, $80 a month. You know what I mean? That's a lot of, I mean, it can be minimal work for them once they get a good tenant and they have a good property. But when there's work to be done and there's an issue and this issue, it could be a lot of work for them. So I try to consider that when dealing with the property manager. But all in all, we've had a fairly pleasant experience with our property managers. But I do have another couple managers in the tuck if the things don't work out. So that's important to have, because you want to have the best experience. You want to keep tenants in there. You want to keep your tenants happy, and you want to keep your home up. You don't want things going unfixed and then turning into bigger problems. So some things to think about.
Definitely, that makes sense. Would you say communication is one of the challenges that you're currently having?
Yeah, I would say communication. Here's the thing too, Sam. I know you have homes in other parts of the country. In the South, man, and compared to Cali, they just they get to when they get to it, man. You know what I mean? Their phone calls, it's a lot. It's just a different energy, and I love it. But sometimes you're waiting for a quicker, swifter response than you get. I've definitely noticed that. But aside from that, communication is definitely the most important thing. Getting back to me when I have inquiries, getting back to the tenants when they have issues, it's important, man. And so, as we scale this thing, and then as we eventually are able to come off the jobs, I think we may try to manage our own properties. That's something that I definitely think we can do. It's just right now, it's just not very feasible for us to do that now. But it's something that we're looking into doing in the future for sure.
Definitely makes sense. Makes sense. So 3 in 1 year, it's pretty quick pace. Were there any challenges in the closings? Any challenges with anything? With any challenges during the acquisition of these properties in the past year?
Yeah. So the third property which we got in December, we had a couple hiccups. So this property in particular was on the market for $62,000, and it was a 3-bed, 2-bath that looked to our eye fairly turnkey. It was like a full flip, but the gentleman, kind of find out, he had stopped at about the 80 to 85% mark of the flip. So there was a couple of little cosmetic things, that needs to be done. He had some supplies still in the home. So he we put an offer. He accepted our offer for $62,000, and we went back. We did our inspection. And it's good to do a property inspection, to have a good, thorough person that's doing that inspection. So he got back to me. He said, I'm being honest with you, this can be a good house. It could be really good. There's a couple of red flags though. The heater was not working properly on day of inspection. Some things that he didn't think were big issues, but really all your inspector can do is tell you if it's functioning or not. Can't he requests that you get professional to look into the particular issue. So I'm like, okay. Long story short, we had to send a counter offer to the gentleman. We said, hey, either we're going to need these things repaired, or we're going to need to adjust the price. And so he's text my agent that. She texted me back. He said he'll adjust the price. So at that point, I didn't know whether to be happy or to be scared, right? So I'm like, whoa, okay. Like, pretty much name your price, Sam. So I'm like, I was like, all right, I'm gonna just get stupid with it. 52,000. Let's take 10,000 off. I don't even know really the extent of the heater issue. It was like a HVAC issue. It just wasn't working. So I'm like, I don't know if this could be. We might need a whole new HVAC. So let's knock 10,000 off. They respond back, okay. I'm just like, whoa, okay. Now I'm a little bit scared, but we pushed through. Now this is where the rub kind of came. Wells Fargo was our lender for this for a particular transaction, and they had been doing drive-by appraisals all throughout COVID, and even going back to when we bought our first homes in 2018. They were just doing drive-by appraisals. Well, this particular guy, he's all in the house, Sam. He's in under the sink. He's doing all this stuff, and I'm just like, is this an inspection or an appraisal?
Wow.
So he had a few issues that my inspector didn't see were big problems. Things like a sink didn't drain. Things that we knew that we were going to have to address, that were simple fixes, and we reflected that in the purchase price. But Wells Fargo was just like, no, we need you to, we can't we can't okay this until these simple things are fixed. I'm talking $100 to $200 fixes.
Wow.
And so I'm like, okay, well, my seller is pretty staunch on that. Here's your price. This is an as-is deal. Like, I'm dropping this price for you because I don't want to do anything else to it. I don't want to fix even something that small.
Yeah.
So I reached out. This was why it's important to have a good agent. I reached out to my agent, let her know what was going on with our lender. I said, man, we may have to walk away from this because, the seller doesn't want to fix anything. And they're saying there's a couple of things that they want to see fixed first. She said, you know what, let me talk to the listing agent on the side and see what we can do. So she said, hey, I'll facilitate the fixing of this through the listing agent. If I said, we'll pay for it, we'll pay out of pocket. We just want this thing to go through, And so she was able to work that out. And, the gentleman, the seller was able to kind of facilitate us having those things fixed so that our lender was satisfied and the deal went through. But it was touch and go there, Sam. We kind of tried to escalate it up with Wells Fargo to no avail, but to us, it was kind of petty, because they had never done anything like that before. So that was probably the closest thing to conflict we've had throughout these last 3 transactions. But other than that, man, it's been fairly smooth.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, I think, it's important for people to see both sides, and there's a couple of things that could have happened during that. You could have said, you know what, we don't want this house. We're done. We're going to look for something else.
Yep.
But you didn't, ultimately it worked out and added it to the portfolio.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. And I heard that story on the podcast, but I just,
yeah.
I needed the listeners to get the tea.
Okay. Cool.
So something else that I was thinking about. So a big misconception. A lot of people think in order to get financing from a bank, property needs to be 100,000 plus. Can you talk a bit more about that? I know you have financing on the current properties and they're below that, which I was amazed by. So can you talk a bit more about that?
It's just a blessing to be naive, I guess, because my agent was shocked by that. And I'm just like, what's the problem? I didn't know that was a thing. She was like, are you sure they're going to give you a loan for that small of an amount? And I'm just like, I mean, I think so. I didn't know that they didn't do that. But hey, man, we've had some issues with Wells Fargo. It's definitely some of their lending practices and different things that's coming up in the news with them. But one thing I can say is that I haven't had any really any issues with them on the lending side. They facilitated those deals that were definitely under 100,000. These were conventional loans. So let's take the last house, for instance. At purchase price of 52,000. Our 20% down was plus closing was roughly around, I want to say around 13, 14.
Wow.
Okay. So when it's all said and done, we have a loan for $44,000. That's a BMW. So they did it. They did it. It was out of state. I've never had really any issues with them on that front, man. So I'm kind of, I guess I could pick your brain a little bit. Is that normal, or is that rare? I guess I'm just naive on that, but yeah, I haven't had any issues with that.
Yeah. That's a good question. I guess I never really thought about it again since whenever I was first told that or heard that. So I was excited to hear that it worked out for you all, because it shows that it's possible, and the reality of it is, like, every market's not going to have properties like that, but that's not to say everyone can just go in and buy cash in those particular markets. Like, they got to lend to somebody. I mean, that's just how I see it. I mean, how else, sense. Like, think about like somebody next door who got an FHA loan on a $65,000 property. I mean, maybe I'm ignorant or naive or something, but I don't think they would ask them to pay for it in cash. Like, most people don't have that much in cash. So how else would you sell the home?
Exactly. I think it's just a reflection of the prices in that area. And, I know the rub is kind of like, well, that's kind of like almost like personal loan size, but it's just that's like you said, that's just really where the prices are in that particular area. So it just kind of worked out for us, and I haven't had any issues so far. So fingers crossed.
Definitely.
Are you looking for a community of like-minded individuals and access to experts in real estate?
Yeah.
Are you interested in real estate but need more support and guidance?
You know who it is?
The Black Real Estate Dialogue presents the Real Estate Investing Community. No matter how much or how little real estate experience you have, we've created a community for you because your perspective is important. All right, tell me, where's the #1 place where you can do Q&A with experienced guest speakers 2 times per month? How about unlimited access to past guest speakers' recordings? What about a private Slack channel to engage in daily discussion with everybody in the community to share resources and support each other? Head on over to blackrealestatedialogue.com. That's blackrealestatedialogue.com. It's the real estate investing community presented by the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Come join us today.
So, as far as like single family versus multifamily, what's your opinion on that? You and Shyra?
You know what, Sam, I really like the idea of multifamily. Me personally, I think it's a good hedge because, if you have one door where you're having a tenant issues, you have another door right there. It's one. It's just there's a lot of hedges when it comes to that. Whereas single family, if you're having tenant issues, you're just getting nothing, no rent there. Especially if you own owning one home. But I really, that's something I want to get into. I want to get into multi-unit at some point. I want to scale to that. But the single family thing, it goes back again to our risk tolerance, and it's just it's where we want to be risk wise right now. But as we scale this thing, man, that's the ultimate goal, is to just have, a multi-unit something in one location. So you're not having to keep track of, I got this loan, I got that, I got this over here. That's going to get messy, the more you acquire. So yeah, it's definitely something that we're thinking about, and that we definitely would like to do in the future for sure.
Yeah. And what I like about that is you're doing what works for you. Yeah. There's this whole big debate in the real estate space where people think it has to be one or the other, which I disagree with. Like, there are people who have a number of single family homes. It works for their bottom line and what they're looking for. There are people who have multifamily. There are people who have a mix. But I think the theme is doing what works for you. Like, you're not wrong if you scale your portfolio with single families. You're not wrong if you scaled it with duplexes, triplexes, or large multifamily. Like, everybody has an argument for one of them, but I mean, why can't you have one or all?
Yeah, you're so right, man. I'm seeing cats literally, because at the end of the day, it's all about the numbers to me.
Right.
I'm seeing guys who are doing house hacking, and their returns are just incredible. They're renting out, cutting their home in this room, that room, and are just killing it, with the room rentals. So there's really more than one way to skin a cat. So whatever works best for you, whatever gets you to your end goal, I think do it. For us, we know that 13 single family homes equals financial freedom for us. So it's like there's really nothing. I can consider other things, but if I have my plan set, it's about running your race and working your plan more so than it is, oh man, they're doing that and they're doing that, and I want to do what others are doing. Find what works for you and just execute that plan.
Definitely. And speaking of financial freedom, I did catch the most recent podcast episode, and so very, very interesting conversation. About retirement, about reaching freedom numbers and things of that nature. So I'd love if you give listeners a bit of insight into that, and just how you two are approaching retirement, approaching just building towards being in a position financially where you want to be.
Absolutely. Sam, I hate work. I can't lie. I can't act like I can't sit here and act like I love it or that. I just don't like it, And so what I do like is options. I'm a very creative person. there's nothing I want to do for 8 hours a day. I don't want to sleep for 8 hours a day. I don't want to play video games for it. I don't want to eat ice cream. There's nothing I want to do for 8 hours. So financial independence is very important to me. It's very important to my wife as well, but she actually enjoys work a little bit more than me. So therein lies the rub. So we talk often about like mapping out our retirement, either number or what year we can retire. And so we've kind of had that plan in place, and we've been working that plan. And one day my wife said, man, what is everybody, all these other success stories that we hear and we read about, what are they doing that we're not? And what can we do differently? And so she started kind of going through our situation, and she came up with an idea that had the potential to retire us today. We live in Sacramento, California. We bought our forever home in 2019. And we bought it for, at the time, we thought couldn't get any higher. We bought it for 460, right? And we was like, man, that's a lot of money, but we gotta, we're having kids. We gotta, plant roots. So fast forward to now, and the home is worth anywhere from 650 to 670.
Wow.
And so we're just like, what? And so that's $300,000 of equity. And we're like, man, what if we sold this home, moved to North Carolina, and moved into a home that we already own outright? It's a smaller home. It's not as good of a neighborhood. So we would have to dumb down our lifestyle some, but we could do this and we could be done with work like today. We would have to also consider, like, now we would be living off of rental income, whereas currently rental income just scales into more real estate. So we use our rental income to buy more real estate now. So we would be retired. I mean, living the retired life, living on a lower income, but we would have that freedom, And so when she brought that to me, I was like, man, this is why we do all of this. We don't do this to have a dope podcast or to be YouTubers. We do this so we can be retired from work. And like we could do that today. But we went back and forth, and we weren't 100% sold on that idea, because we felt like with a few more years of working and grinding the plan, we can live a better life in retirement than we would if we retired today. So my idea was, okay, let's say we take our W-2 income. Currently, our W-2 income is used for our stock market investing through 401ks and Roth IRAs. And then our real estate income, that we get from renting out our homes goes into creating more real estate. So those two worlds are separate. I say, well, what if we stop contributing to the market for a period of time and use that money to infuse our real estate income, because our real estate income will create the cash flow that enables us to retire early. So she said, okay, that's not bad. So in essence, we would be getting to that 13th house in half the time, essentially.
Right.
And really, retirement is not a time, it's not a date, it's a number. So if you can get to that number in 10 years, if you get to that number in 10 months, you're done. And so she said, that's not a bad idea. Now the risk is, man, what if I'm missing out in the market, the gains and things like that? Well, lucky for us, we have a pretty large nest egg already there that will still be working in the market. We just wouldn't be openly contributing for a period of time. So that's kind of the rub there. So we didn't give away what we decided to do on the podcast, but I could do it with my real estate dialogue family, my bread family. We chose the second plan. So we're going to grind for another 3 to 5 years. We're going to use our W-2 income to infuse our real estate acquisitions, and we're going to rent those homes out, of course, and use that money to really retire us early and speed up that process for us. So we're excited about it, and I'm ready to buy some more houses, man.
I know you are. Definitely. That's amazing, man. So one thing you mentioned is just the rental income, and of course, like that being a source of the income in retirement. Does that make you nervous?
It does. It does, because you're essentially relying on someone to pay their rent so you can live. You're relying on the house not having any major issues. You know, what if there's a year where a couple of your houses need ACs, or, you know, need new roofs, you know? So that does scare me. But the cool thing about it, Sam, is that like we will be living off of that for a period of time, because when your stock market money seasons, you know, when we're 59, or when, you know, there's if you follow the financially independent retire early community, there's ways to drip that money, you know, early than 59 and a half, 65. So as long as you look at it like, well, I'll be doing this for a period of time, you know, and then I can really tap into that stock market investment money that we've been putting away. That puts me more at peace about it. But yeah, it's definitely nerve wracking, because right now it's like real estate is like, it's kind of like a side hustle for us.
Yeah.
You know, we still have our W-2 jobs, and so that's where our bread and butter is. But in retirement, it will be all real estate. But man, I'm willing to take that risk.
Love it. What advice do you have to someone who wants to do what you and Shyra are doing, who wants to buy rentals, you know, bring up their income?
Yeah.
I know, and I know you too, it's not just real estate, it's, you know, financial independence overall. So, you know, investing in the stock market, paying down debt. It's a host of things that you two have done. So if you could break it down into a couple of tips, like what would you tell somebody who aspires to head in that same direction?
Well, I love it, man. The thing that I would tell someone is, you want to lower your expenses first. So and I know we're Blackberry debt free, and that's where we were at a moment in time, but we, you know, our philosophy has changed somewhat. Do I think you need to be out of debt before you get into real estate? No. Does it help? Yes, because now you have more buying power. You have more ability to save faster and really acquire more. So I would say that is important, you know, to lower your expenses, pay down your debt if you can. But let's say you don't want to do that. Work your numbers. Make sure, Shyra, we tell the story. Shyra had a friend that was looking to get into real estate, and she saw a house. She's like, I think I have a good house. So Shyra's like, well, what are the number? What's your return? Well, if I get it, you know, I only have to pay like $100 a month. Is that supposed to be an investment property? Yeah, but you know, I just pay $100 a month. It's like, no, that's not what we're in this for. Like,
Yeah.
you're in this to make money. You know what I mean? So I think as long as you keep that at the forefront, don't get like so enamored with the physical real estate. Like, I like how this house looks. No, does it make you money? Can your return by renting that home out, if you're going that route, if you're going to buy a whole route, can that return pay for the mortgage and pay you cash flow? And if it can, cool. And then also to have a plan to scale. We get a lot of people that's like, I want to get my first house, man. I want to get it. It's like, man, I feel you. I was there. Like, but once you get that first one, you realize this $200 cash flow can't really buy me much. Right? So at least have a plan to scale. You know, that first house is very important, man. That's going to get you excited. That's going to prove that you can do it. And you should have a plan to, okay, now how am I going to get the next one and the next one, and have that vision written out. Okay, this property is going to yield me this much a year. So by year 3, I'll have enough to get my next one, and so on and so forth. You want to have that plan in place. If you're getting it to get one house and start living off the income, you're just kind of spinning your wheels. So those would be some tips I would give people. There's not hundreds, but there's a lot of ways to do real estate investing. Sam may have a slightly different strategy than me. We're buy and hold. Some people like to do fix and flip. So just research all of the different ways and find which one, you know, fits best for you.
Definitely. So, Montgomery, Alabama, what does the future look like? I know you're trying to get as many deals as you can, but
Yeah.
what are you hoping for the rest of this year and beyond?
You know, I'm excited about the potential future for Montgomery. One thing we quickly realized about Montgomery, just in general, is like, man, the history there is amazing. It's. I said it on a video. It's like it's a perfect blend of history and like style, because you're 2 hours away from Atlanta. I mean, it's got its own kind of swag. They're really, rebuilding the downtown area. The museums there are just, man, amazing museums, and you can see the trajectory, of a Montgomery. So we're excited about that, as we acquire more. For this year, we're looking to try to get at least two. I'm optimistic that maybe we could get another three, but it's tax season, so that
Yeah.
we dealing with that right now.
Oh yeah, that's a headache.
But yeah, it's no joke. The more you make, the more they take, right?
Yeah.
But but we're excited about the future, and we're going, hopefully we can really build the portfolio up in Montgomery, but we're also open to pivoting. That's one thing that we're big on. So we're keeping our ear to the street, just in case things change. But it's looking very promising at the moment.
Definitely. And I also want you to talk more about Blackberry Debt Free, the podcast and the brand and everything y'all are doing. And again, I listen to the podcast, like I mentioned in DMs, like I've been envisioning it for weeks. So I really like it. And I really enjoy the conversations you two have. And when you have guests on. So I really want people to tune into that as well. So can you talk more about just the podcast and also everything y'all are doing with the brand?
Man, that's so encouraging, Sam. You just don't know, bro, because we got into this to just tell our story, right?
Mm-hmm.
We paid off debt, and we was like, I like filming, I like editing, I like doing creative stuff, filtering in music and comedy, so I was like, I wanted to be quote unquote a YouTuber, I guess, but I just didn't have anything to talk about. But when we started getting into personal finance, I was like, well, here's a cool topic to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from that, we had no plan. We didn't know we were going to get, 30,000 subscribers on Instagram. And, we thought we were going to have 3 or 4 people that watched it, And so once you do it, you start realizing like, man, people really like this. And it puts you into a space where you're like, wow, we actually have some type of influence. But you also sometimes look at others and say, but dang, but we're not there though. But man, they're doing X, and so it's a weird world. And that's why, like I said, I appreciate those words, because sometimes you ask yourself, well, what was the plan again? We're kind of just in this thing. But man, we just love at the heart of it all, Sam, we love just having conversations about finance. We grew up in a world where our parents, did not talk about finance openly. You may hear a little glimpse of it during some argument, but aside from that, they didn't really have open dialogues about finance. And if someone did, they were looked at as, no, they showing off. No, they just talking about their money, But I love this new renaissance where it's like, you got people like yourself, you got people like me and Shyra, who are just creating these small worlds and pockets where we're all talking about finance. So when our kids grow up, I mean, look at like people like Earn Your Leisure. I mean,
yeah,
they're making it cool to talk about money. I mean, that's just like, you would never think that we'd be here, but we are. And so we're just doing our contribution to that economy, And so we're excited about that. Me and Shyra, we just have conversations on our podcast, man. We're not trying to give advice. We're not trying to be, these gurus and all that. We just want to have cool conversation that you could literally turn on your way to the grocery store, on the way to work, and just vibe out to. That's really where we're shooting for now. I think we've kind of found our niche there. And so, yeah, man, you can find us, on any podcast platform. We're also active on YouTube. So we're excited about, just having those conversations, man.
Definitely. And make sure y'all subscribe. listen,
Yes, sir.
but also subscribe. It's very important.
Yeah.
Man, love it, man. So this has been really, really dope interview. I've been looking forward to this, and just to share this update of the story with the world. And I think it's just amazing, the pivot from North Carolina to Montgomery. And I think it's even better that was like the market that you two wanted to get into. So I'm glad things have been working out. And just people learning about how to choose your team, and just so much. There's a whole lot of game in this episode. So definitely appreciate you coming on, Marques, and for sure, the next time we'll have to have Shyra on.
Yeah, absolutely, Sam. And thank you, bro, man. We always watching you, man. We always checking out what you're doing, and we love what you got going on, man. You have some guests on here, and I'm like, man, this is gonna be dope. So keep doing what you're doing, bro. We love it, and we thank you for having us on. We really truly appreciate it.
Of course. And then where can people find you, follow you, and check out everything you and Shyra have going on?
Yeah, you can check us out. Our main hub for everything is blackberrydebtfree.com. You can get access to our podcast there, also our YouTube channel. We're fairly active on Instagram, and yeah, man, you can check out everything we're doing. When all else fails, just Google Blackberry Debt Free, and we should pop up.
Definitely. Awesome. And thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of the Black Real Estate Dialogue podcast. Please take a moment to subscribe, leave us a 5-star rating and review. Really appreciate the support. Look forward to hearing from you all soon. Hi, everyone. Sam here from the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Make sure to hit that notification bell and that subscribe button, and to visit us at blackrealestatedialogue.com.